Hi there, welcome back. So here I'm just there's just some code that's going to build the model. So basically this time I kind of put the loss and the optimizers inside these functions just to make it a little bit easier to build the whole thing with. So here is just a class that I called GAN that we basically build our whole model in here. So we call these functions and it builds the inputs and it calculates the, gets the losses and the optimizers. And we can use these in training to actually like train the network. And just kind of packaging it like this into an object just makes it easier to sort of pass around and work with. And this is just a function to display the images that we're generating. So we can do this while we're training to see how it's working. We can do it afterwards to see like, if we want to like generate new images from the generator, then we can use this function to actually like see those images. And this function is obviously used to train the network. So we just pass in our network and our data and then give it some of our hyperparameters, and then it will train the data for us, or train the network for us. Okay, so now with all that out of the way, this is where you're going to be setting the hyperparameters and actually training the network. They're like GANs are a little bit tricky to train because they're very sensitive to hyperparameters. There a lot of experimentation goes into finding the best hyperparameters, maybe not the best, but at least hyperparameters that work. So what can happen is the generator and the discriminator are, like they're playing this like game with each other, right? And you have to set the hyperparameters so that the generator and the discriminator, they're not overpowering each other. So the generator is able to make images and the discriminator is able to discriminate, to tell if one's fake or real. But at the same time, like if the discriminator is too good, then the generator is not going to learn and that sort of stuff. So what you're going to do here is, try out some of your own hyperparameters or like check out, again, the DC GAN paper to see what worked for them. So I found that their parameters worked really well for this data set, but that's not always the case. So when you're working with different data sets, those different hyperparameters are going to work well. And what I found when you actually get the hyperparameters correct is that the discriminator loss is usually around 0.3. So what this corresponds to is when the discriminator is correctly classifying images as real or fake 50% of the time. And that's basically what you want, right? Because you want your discriminator, or you want your generator to be making images that look basically real. And so then your discriminator, like if it can't tell between if it's real or fake, then it'll be getting it correct about 50% of the time. So just like a flip of a coin, basically. So that tends to be what you want to shoot for as you're setting your hyperparameters. And I've also, and from what I've seen from the generator loss, it's usually around 2 or 3 or something like that, when the discriminator is around 0.3 or 0, around there. Okay, so go ahead and play with these hyperparameters, or if you want a good starting point, or just like want it to work, then just like read up on this DC GAN paper to see what they used and try those out. Okay, good luck.